Brendan Mullen was a fine gentleman, and I'm sorry I can't be there with you to give him a proper goodbye. I think that Brendan would laugh at what I have to say about him and probably tell me I didn't get it right, but here goes. Brendan lived an accomplished life, not always an easy life, but an interesting life. And when you look at photos of him, I think that you see that he definitely enjoyed being Brendan Mullen. No one can think about Brendan without thinking about the Masque. Yet whenever I spoke to Brendan about the Masque, he would humbly claim that he didn't start the Masque. He told me that he literally fell into it. He told me that the Masque started itself. He always credited everyone, the bands, the audience, the journalists, the photographers, the crew, and the roadies. He said that everyone who was there in the beginning was responsible for starting the club. He described it as a spontaneous reaction to a need for a place to make music. Brendan opened the door, and I salute him and thank him for that. I also need to thank those of you who first came crashing through that door in need of a place to play. I was not, I'm sorry to say, among you. I never performed at the Masque. I wasn't really a part of the scene. I was there like so many others to observe and be entertained. But what I experienced there made me the artist that I am today. The Masque was not a place. It wasn't just a scene. It didn't espouse a specific philosophy, and it didn't draw in just one type of person. It was a blank canvas where the laws of entertainment, the rules of high art, and especially the principles of polite behavior did not apply. It was a music-oriented faction, and I consider the Masque to be the most important cultural movement of my lifetime. I firmly believe that if the energy created at the Masque had not trickled down and created the LA club scene, my own particular style of music and performance would not have found an audience. Countless musicians, photographers, writers, poets, journalists, painters, actors, dancers, filmmakers, videographers, fashion designers, performance artists, and a few of the criminally insane were directly influenced by the Masque. Brendan, of course, also knew that there are people who don't even know that their work is derivative of the creative process that originated in that squalid bunker. In hindsight, Brendan realized how important the Masque was from a historical point of view, so he started writing the history of the Masque. I understand that he wrote volumes that never made it to press. He was obsessed with telling the whole story and getting it right, so the world would remember the names and faces of those of you who crashed the gates of hell and made all that beautiful noise. I also want to thank Kateri for loving Brendan unconditionally, creating a comfortable home with him, and for holding Brendan at the end. Brendan will be dearly missed by all of us who loved him and may never be forgotten.
Dr. Stephen Schoenberger, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi everybody, it's wonderful to be here, and Brendan would have truly loved this had it not been for the reason that we're gathering here. I get to talk about Brendan as a musician, and you all know the way that he put together a place for musicians to play, but you might not know that Brendan was a drummer. Or if you do know that he's a drummer, you might not know that he was not a classically trained musician. Brendan played in the following bands: Arthur J. and the Gold Cups, yay, Geza X and the Mommy Men, Ella and the Blacks, the rockinest devil-worshipping band in town, Hal Negro and the Satan Tones. He also played with Jane, who's here, and the Hollywood Sympathy Orchestra, and backed up Priscilla B., and then he played in the Grillo Follies. I had the pleasure and the privilege of playing with Brendan and Hal Negro in the Satin Tones and in the Grillo Follies, and I have to be totally honest with you, I'm a Johnny-come-lately. I didn't actually start playing with him till '78, so you can dismiss any sort of credibility that I might have. But it was wonderful to be the bass player with the drummer, because there is a tight locking of two people when you're playing in that sort of a environment. And I was a 17-year-old kid from the Valley, and I had Hal Negro and Brendan Mullen as my, as Bob just said, life coaches. And they introduced me, and I shouldn't actually talk about this because my 14-year-old son is in the audience, but to the continuous bacchanal that was Hollywood from about '78 to '85 when I decided to go back to school. And it was fantastic, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, to have friends that you only see at night. Imagine such a thing. I mean, it's just fantastic. But Brendan loved to play drums, and he loved to have that additional identity. And I did play in the band early on before the violence and all the bottle throwing and things that Marty alluded to. And it was wonderful for him and Marty to open up this world and all these friends that I have. It's a fraternity, but it's a sorority too. And we were the Hollywood punks, and it was all about fun, and it was just incredible. I also want to, not to reminisce too much about that, but for the people, and he made interesting things happen, and he helped all of us in a way that at the time we thought was normal, and it was Brendan. And now that he's not with us, you look back and say, wow, that was a special person. I wish I had had the chance to say thank you and goodbye. And he did go quickly, but what I want to tell you all is what actually happened. There were some rumors about tubes down his throat and all these things. None of that happened. And when Brendan left us, it was with peace and tranquility, surrounded by people that loved him. On the day that that this thing happened, he was conscious at times, and he would open his eyes, and every single time he opened his eyes, Kateri or myself or Lisa Derrick, who was there to tell him that where he was, that we loved him, that everything possible was being done for him, and not to be afraid. And I know that death is a very scary and unknown thing, and I want you all to know, the people that are here gathered in his name, to know that this is how it was for him. He was surrounded by people that loved him. At the end, when nature took its course and it was clear what was going on, I had my silly iPhone and I turned on some tune.
You know, I had a lot of conversations, lively political conversations with Brendan over the years, and I just want to echo what everybody has said, that, you know, there were a lot of facets to this thing that was punk or post-punk or this art movement or this thing that we're all part of. Have a pretty dream, baby. Dream that they forgot to load the rifle with any dangerous thing. Have a pretty dream. Dream as if they shot maybe paintball or something like silly string. And if somebody gets hit, they tell the truth and say, I'm here. And they put the rifle down.
Contessa, seeing you all here today gathered together in memory of Brendan brings me enormous comfort. Your presence here is a beautiful tribute to and celebration of a most extraordinary man who was and is the love of my life. Many thanks to our wonderful MCs, our speakers and musicians, and to Liz Garrow and the Echoplex, Brian Rabin, Mark Wheaton, Johanna Wendt, and all the volunteers for making this memorial service a joyful testament to Brendan's many accomplishments. Your love for Brendan and for me is the light that guides me through these dark days.